vomit out the same 4 to 5. What is the point of building new archetypes when the best way to play them is to vomit out the same 4 to 5 boss monsters and call it a day? If you look at the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the last 5-ish years, I feel like we are just playing the same old song and dance until the generic pieces we use are either banned or power crept. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is no...
It's kind of right. The thing is, though, how many of them really have been power crept? Like, I kind of get Tri-Gate Wizard. I think Tri-Gate was mainly just, like, good because of Master Rule 4 that just forced you to play Links. But, a lot of them really haven't even been banned. Like, Gumblar got banned, but, like, I don't know. Then again, I guess you could say stuff like DPE. Okay, I kind of get where he's coming from. Adamantipator 1-0. Bro, there was no YCS to win.
No stranger to powerful generic cards influencing the game. Hell, GOAT players will convince you a format based on who can draw and recycle Pot of Greed first is a true expression of skill. But even back then, your generic cards were not your deck's main game plan. They were just the tools that got you there. I mean, you could play a deck of all Mirror Forces, but I run a 0 UR deck challenge and even I wouldn't play this trash. Magic Cylinder Turbo is absolutely something coming though, so be ready for that. Now,
what is this?
I wouldn't play this trash. Magic Cylinder Turbo.
Oh, this is like Master Duel or some shit.
Is absolutely something coming though, so be ready for that. Now, how did this shift happen from toolbox to main focus? Well, let's take a look. The first sign of a shift was in the Synchro era. Regardless of the deck you played, most players made room for generic staple boss monsters like Goyo Guardian, Stardust Dragon, and Black Rose Dragon. The last one specifically was literally in every deck of this era. It had a 100% play rate. However, this era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is beloved by all besides the most staunch Yu-Gi-Oh!
Wait. Yes, I did know this.
In fact, where you paid 1,000 life points to activate the card, and in addition, you paid 500 life points during each of your standby phases to keep it on the field. This maintenance cost is pretty standard when it comes to floodgates or other continuous types of effects. However, where Toon World differed from these other kinds of maintenance costs was that it made you keep track of them. Because when this card was sent from the field to the graveyard, you would gain all the life points that you paid for Toon World.
It's crazy.
Although, needlessly, keeping track of how many life points you paid for this card was kind of unnecessary because the card was just so bad, and rather unique, because no other maintenance costs work this way. So when the card was reprinted in 2002, it was given an errata where it just had the first line of text, to only pay 1,000 life points to activate the card with no other effects. And since the first printing of this card in English was in 2002 in the Magic Ruler set, it was given its second errata immediately. So many TCG players don't even know about its first effect and how needlessly convoluted it was. When Toon World was first printed back in the...
Gotta get some OCG content out.
And we just saw what kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Appealed to them. But why is this? Because the generic monsters used kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is beloved by all besides the most staunch Yu-Gi boomers, and we just saw what kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Appealed to them. But why is this?
Wait, I'm sorry.
The most staunch Yu-Gi boomers...
Why is every modern card 6 paragraphs long? I'm not gonna read that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Chad. If you ever sat down and like read Relinquished or Thousand Eyes Restrict, it's pretty long. So you can just negate every card type or destroy every card on the field. Basically, no cost. This card's not even legal. I'm like, this card is not legal in GOAT format. Neither is this. Aren't these both banned? I'm not even... Yeah, this card was really... But, like, both of these cards are banned in GOAT format. I don't even think IO is in GOAT format either. I think all of them are. I think all 3 of these are banned in GOAT format. Because I think IO was banned by then. I get the point. I'm just being glib. Okay. I'm just saying, yeah.
And we just saw what kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Appealed.
They're all banned. That's what I thought, because I'm like, I don't remember. Feather Duster was banned super quick, chat. Because it came as a game promo.
Them. But why is this? Because the generic monsters used were more of a toolbox. This word is thrown around a bit in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sphere, and here's where I'm going to define it in my opinion. Just like how you own a box of tools to deal with specific problems, your extra deck had monsters that could out specific boards and remove whatever your opponent had. This created a solid back and forth, with cards like Black Rose Dragon being amazing turn 2 board clearers and being countered by your opponent making Stardust Dragon. However, you could run over Stardust Dragon going second with cards like Goyo Guardian, but if your opponent has a battle trap, it stops that. Not to mention making a level 8 turn 1 wasn't always immediately feasible, so what were you able to end on took a bit more understanding. Now, eventually, in the Synchro era, we did get turn 1 negates, but it was stuff like Quasar, which took pretty much your entire hand and deck to commit into, and even then, it was a single Omni negate. So to make the equivalent of Barone back then, you needed 2 Synchro monsters and 1 Tuner Synchro monster. Hell, Barone's target pop effect probably makes it better than Quasar, just comparing effects, because its OTK power really isn't helpful these days. But what is helpful is if you like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are almost at 3K and I can't wait to hit it. But for the Xyz era, it was much the same. We didn't really have insane going first boards with the exception of the worst card ever printed. I know this vid is very critical of modern Yu-Gi-Oh, but I'd rather they unban any of these Link bastards before we unlock the shock. The best thing you could really make going first was something like Giant Hand, which was a 2K prize card, and Minerva, which was...
Huh? Does anyone else disagree with the point that he's making, chat? Because I do. And I think it's very, I mean... Did someone not play Dino Rabbit format? What? Logia Doka? Hello? Those were like the backbone of the beginning of Zexal. Normal summon, rescue rabbit, activate effect, get 2 Sabersaurus, Ixie into Omni negate. What? Gross? I don't know. I mean... That was like a very a very common play in a deck that won like 3 YCS's, chat. You know what I mean? Like Logia is an Omni negate, Doka is double negate. It's just for monsters, but still.
Also a 2K prize card. I didn't say the format was affordable, I just said it was different. What the Xyz era really increased was the power of toolbox monsters. Number 101, Castel, Exciton Knight, and if you really wanted to hit over something hard, man, nobody did it better than Utopia the Lightning. While for the most part, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has always been a game where going first is typically better, these incredibly toolboxy eras were probably the closest we've ever gotten to a true fair side of the game, where going second isn't the end of the world. Obviously, in this era, things like Dragon Ruler still existed, but even then the mirror is still quite skill dependent and isn't super dependent on what goes first or second. Penned format was when you could really spiral into an insane amount of power going first, and spiral format was when we had gone too far. I think it would be a criminal underestimation to say Master Rule 4 and onwards, the speed of the game changed in a way we had never seen before. I have an entire video I want to make on Link summoning as a whole, so make sure you sub for that. But for now, what I want to highlight is a change in our generic going second cards. We started with main deck cards to deal with opponent stuff, then progressed into putting them mostly in the extra deck, and now we have moved back into our disruption coming from the main deck. This was the era that really popularized hand traps, which yes, Effect Veiler existed for a while now, but things like Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, and Nibiru had shifted the power of our disruption into these incredibly focused single-use monsters. That's because we now pretty much commit most of our extra deck into building the most insane board your deck can muster. Extenders on extenders, monsters that summon from the main deck, and the final pieces that put up enough negates to stop anything and everything your opponent can throw at you. And the greatest offender of this philosophy is Apollosa, Bow of the Goddess.
Celso believe! Press 1 if Celso was right the entire time. Celso believe. Appaloosa ruined the game. I hate to tell you, she's not getting banned, Celso. Like I think Baron DeFleur could get banned. Like, okay, I'll say this. She probably will get banned. She probably will get banned eventually, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it like being like now. I don't see it being like soon. I think Baron DeFleur maybe, but I don't really see Appaloosa getting banned very soon. And it's crazy because like, you know, you can make her pretty easily in fire decks. So she's not. Nah, she's real good. If you have her plus you have World C, you basically like you can't. I mean, Imperm can stop her, but you can't attack over her because they'll just World C pop your shit. So it's like actually a really good play. And if you special summon, then they use the freaking fire chick from the graveyard. So Promethean Princess
buys this card with every fiber of my being, and I have zero idea how it's been allowed to be legal all this time. Realistically, think about the last 10 duels where you or your opponent summoned this card. It pretty much ends the game immediately. Because there's two options. Your opponent is going to have a specific board breaker and win immediately because you committed half of your deck's resources to Apollousa, or your opponent is going to lose immediately because with Engine and like one negate, they can't play through 3 to 4 monster negates and anything else you might have. Because every meta combo deck doesn't just end on Apo, it ends on Barone, Borreload Savage Dragon, or all 3 of them. This style of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is something that I thought for the last few years we had tried to distance ourselves from after the Link era of 40-minute combo nonsense. And I see when Konami tries to make mid-range formats focused around specifically unique boss monsters come to life, and it's interesting. And while you and I might not like the specific boss monsters that shape that individual format, I think we can all appreciate not having to stare down the same handful of boss monsters that individual.
I'm gonna say it again.
And while you and I might not like the specific
unban this card. I know this card's fucking crazy. And it's crazy. Anytime, chat, that they have made like an Xyz monster that you could cheat out, I don't know, that card generally ends up being crazy, but I get this card's crazy, but unban this card, bro. Like I think right now, if a Rise Art was legal, this format would be better. Like, I'd play Cash. I think Cash would, like, full power Cash would probably mop Cash. I think full power Cash would probably mop Fire Kings, to be honest. Because they would have to go back to playing, like, books and shit. It'd be very difficult for Fire Kings to beat this card, to be honest. Just the Macrocosmos effect.
specific boss
A Rise Art is format warping. Si, senor.
that shape that individual.
He really is, isn't he though, chat? Dude, it's so crazy. When you look at this card should not be format warping, should it, chat? Like, all it is one banish and a macro. You would not think that that's good enough to be. This motherfucker is completely format warping. You gotta play like fucking Book of Boons, and if this card's legal, you gotta play like fucking Book of Boons and Lances and shit. This card is like completely format warping, and you wouldn't think of it would be just by reading it though. I think it's the fact that it attaches materials, chat, and that effect is so seldomly seen on. I can't even think of like 5 other Xyz monsters that can attach materials. Like, Xyz monsters generally don't do that. Like, once their materials are off, they're basically useless. Like, all right, you better win the game before you attach those 2 materials. But a Rise Art is like, nope, I have infinite materials. That's how I roll. Infinite materials. He's so free though. Well, yeah, that's because you can rank him up. You can rank him up using what, like Shangri-Ira or Little Rise Art. I think it's like 2 ways to rank him up. Because I don't think you can use it. No, wait. I think you can use any cash monster as long as you activated Shangri-Ira's effect. So any cash monster turns into him. Not just Little Rise Art.
Format, I think we can all appreciate
any
having to
cash.
stare down the same handful of boss monsters every time we go to locals. Because what these cards do for the most part is ruin the amazing ideas and mechanics of so many decks. For example, in Adamancipator, you literally excavate the earth to find rocks to build your board with. In Monadium, you crush your balls and weave through an interconnected story of different worlds and people to make your boss monsters as well. And with Spiral, you literally spy on your opponent's cards to gain intel and set up your espionage. But with all of these unique and amazing ideas, it's such a shame that the best way to play them for the most part is to spam out the generic boss monsters mentioned before as fast as possible.
He's kind of spitting, chat. Like that what he just said, the idea of like how these decks work, especially like Adamantip, man, I wouldn't necessarily say that Vanadium has like a super interesting play style. I think its lore is interesting, but I wouldn't say its gameplay specifically is like, I don't think it's more interesting than like what's the deck, chat, that puts all its monsters? Scareclaw. Like, I think Scareclaw is more interesting because like all your monsters are in defense mode, you're attacking with defense. It's like just like you're playing like a baby version of like Super Heavy Samurai, you know what I mean? Like kind of like that. But I do think Spiral is like interesting because like you are spying on your opponent's deck. You activate Double Helix based on cards that are on top of your opponent's deck. Same thing with Super Agent. Adamancipator has that kind of RNG built in. Do you hit? Do you not hit? Like, you know what I mean? But like, it is kind of a shame that these decks do kind of just they all aggregate into like the same monsters, chat, or they all funnel into like the same monsters. Metal Gear Solid deck.
feels
Scareclaw's
like such
back.
a waste
I like
all
Scareclaw.
these cool concepts when you are mostly ignoring them because they aren't as good as saying no to your opponent 5 times. Now, maybe Yu-Gi-Oh could be so much better if we banned all of these, but there is one caveat I want to mention. Barone is a strange one. In some decks like Sword Soul, it plays the supplementary piece of negation. You still win the game with the Sword Soul starters and boss monsters 99% of the time, it's just there to help. I think these cards are at their best when it's made something like that, because this is not a hate video on generic cards as a concept, because I think it's an amazing way to work it, and I think the best way to make a generic boss monster is Zeus. Zeus is one of the best designed cards in the last few years, an insanely powerful removal tool that gives all Xyz decks some potential to break a board going second without having to draw a specific out.
Yeah, I think he's fucking true. If you think Zeus is, I would argue the opposite. I would argue just because a card is useful does not mean that it is well designed, because you have to, like, when I think of well designed, chat, I think of like risk reward, right? And I think of like, what do you put into said card and then what do you get out of it? Zeus gives you way too much. Like, you put almost nothing into making Zeus and you get so much out of it. Zeus requires a battle phase. That's it. That's all you have to do is attack, and you get this monster that can wipe the board. Not a hard once per turn, not even a fucking once per chain. Like, what? Doesn't send or doesn't destroy, but send. Like, Zeus is a terribly unbalanced card. I think Sky Crisis maybe, because Sky Crisis also, like, it is reliant on what your opponent does. Zeus is not. All you have to do is attack. Sky Crisis cannot be summoned, chat, unless your opponent specifically does something. I mean, unless you... I guess you could summon Sky Crisis using like 2/12s, but I've never seen that done, so whatever.
Designed cards in the last few years. An insanely powerful removal tool that gives all Xyz decks some potential to break a board going second without having to draw a specific out. This is the peak of generic support, and I hope in the future this is what Yu-Gi-Oh pivots to, and less about this. I mentioned before how the extra deck is mostly just combo extenders and boss monsters, but for the last 5%, this is a perfect example of...
Konami thought that the battle phase was enough of a restriction. Fair enough. But, like, in practicality, Celza, what was the end result? Chat, do you guys not remember, like, last year around this exact time? You guys remember, like, YCS Philadelphia, that format where the format was, like, purely cash and SHS? Do you guys remember, like, literally the #1 extra deck monster in that format? And how it was fucking Zeus? Do you guys remember that, chat? How every single deck in the game played Zeus? Like, you did not run a deck without Zeus in it, chat. At least meta deck. If you go back to YCS Philadelphia last year, which was in May, so basically the same, like a little later than where we are right now, Zeus was in every single meta deck. Like, it was like him and a Rise Heart for, like, what's the best extra deck monster? You know what I mean? Like, Zeus was crazy. 2 because of Unicorn, Borbo, swing into... Oh, I know that. I played that in Vanquish Soul. 6 material Zeus.
Great and awful design in Yu-Gi-Oh! A card like Underworld Goddess, in my opinion, is fantastic design. Absurd removal at an insane cost for you, and any amount of disruption your opponent has can prevent...
Agree. But that's the exact reason that Zeus is not good card design. He just talked about the insane cost to summon this card. Zeus is like the op. I mean, you can say that the battle phase is a giant restriction, but, you know, there's decks like Runix that prove that the battle phase, I mean, the Runic, SP, Little Knight, like, there's so many cards, chat, that prove, like, players don't give a fuck about the battle phase. Like, as long as they can get card advantage, they'll eventually win.
From being evenly matched. To the board. And then there's Access Code, a card that effectively removed the concept of major weaknesses from meta decks. Access Code and Boral Sword, for a smaller degree, was when Konami basically gave up on the idea that some decks might have a better ability to OTK than others. Recoverability is a cool skill for a deck to have, especially mid-range and control builds, but it's difficult to implement in the modern game because you won't have a chance to recover if you die turn 2 to these assholes. In a strange way, they simplify aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the worst way possible, and are sort of the second half to why Yu-Gi-Oh! Has the stereotype that all the games end in 2 turns. You either end on a ton of negates, or...
I mean, Chad, if you're not playing stunned, isn't that true, though? Like, I'm sorry, we all love Yu-Gi-Oh!, but, like, I feel like that's true. I mean, don't modern Yu-Gi-Oh games, chat, go basically 2 turns? Like, you have like turn 0, the opponent's turn, basically like you need to kill or floodgate your opponent, and then like the follow-up turn, which usually ends the game. Like, it's true. That's not even, I would argue that that's, as bad as it sounds, I would argue that's not even a negative stereotype anymore. I would argue that that's just reality. Like, unless you're playing a deck like a Runic, where, and in all honesty, the duel, like if you play Runic and you go second against Fire King and you're able to break their board with like 3 floodgates or fountain, draw 3, and like you win the game by default at that point. For like, you're not gonna lose the game unless you just throw and just don't activate your cards. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh for the most part is a 2-turn game. It's been that way for a few years.
Aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh in the worst way possible, and are sort of the second half to why Yu-Gi-Oh has the stereotype that all the games end in 2 turns. You either end on a ton of negates or slam them through an OTK your opponent.
Oh wow, that's... Thank you very much, Torino Poo. Thank you very much, Torino Poo, for coming through with the Twitch first time subscription. See, I was about to say resubscription because we don't get a lot of first time subs on this channel, but I appreciate that. I'm not sure what you saw in this stream because it wasn't Yu-Gi-Oh gameplay that made you think I want to sub, you know, but I appreciate that, my friend, and thank you for your support. You know, we are a different type of Yu-Gi-Oh stream here. I am not a stream where I like play Master Duel and rage over Max C or just play dueling. I'm a different type of stream. I gave up those days a long time ago. Not the what's it called? Not to say that I don't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh or that I can't play, but it's a different vibe here. So, but anyways, I appreciate that. Appreciate the content. Well, I appreciate you. Whether you're talking about the stream content and you're just entertaining, you're like, Cap, you know what? I kind of like you doing this, reacting to this stuff and talking about these things. Or if you're just talking about my YouTube videos, either way, I'm happy. Thank you so much, my friend. He subbed because you're a legend. Well, I do think that that's accurate.
Opponent. Now, to be clear, this is not indicative of every format and every style. I think we can all agree on that. But these decks reinforce that notion till this very day. And I think the best way moving forward is to give decks back their identity and to bring back more of a back and forth. So please, we should ban Apollousa. This would not only fix all the general problems mentioned before, but this would also be a great hit to Snake Eyes, the tier 0 deck that came out a few months ago, so we know Konami's not going to hit it hard anytime soon. I know this would affect a ton of other decks besides Snake Eyes, but if your deck is nothing without Apollousa, you shouldn't have it. Thank you all for watching.
All right, Iron
Man.
Please
like and subscribe. This is Bread Boy Weeb, signing out.
You know what? I gotta be. Oh, damn. I wish his ban list video wasn't so far back, chat, because I kind of like. I don't know. I kind of like this guy. I didn't agree with all his points, but I agreed with the overarching idea. And it's interesting, chat, because like I don't think that people say that Yu-Gi-Oh can't have Omni negates, right? You guys tell me if I'm off basis here or not, right? I don't think that people say like, oh, Yu-Gi-Oh shouldn't have Omni negates. I just think that they should be like fairly restrictive, right? Like a card like it was in the video, chat. A card like Dragon Maid Shao. Like what? There's nothing wrong with Dragon Maids ending on like an Omni negate, chat. But Dragon Maid Shao, you know, she's an Omni negate, then she tags in the house, and that's pretty much, you know, that's like the full extent of your Omni negation in Dragon Maze. You don't get like 3 of them suckers. Or a card like Adamancipator, the freaking water dragon, the synchro, like that card. You know, Adamancipator getting like 1. This is my new favorite Yu-Gi-Oh binge channel. Oh, okay, you got a goat in there. Generic extra deck monsters should not feature negates. A meaningful interruption should be on an archetype's boss. More xenophobic restrictions. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, make more cards like Dragon Maid Shao or Adamancipator, Dragite. That's the card's name. Yeah, Adamancipator Dragite. Yeah. Like those. I mean, you can't splash Adamancipator Dragite in a bunch of decks. Like, do you have waters? Oh no, you don't have waters? Cool, can't play this card. You know what I mean? I'll just summarize the rant I've had with generic extra deck boss monsters with this. No generic boss monsters should be better than those you have to work to get. The more generic they are, the weaker their effects should be. Yeah, we had this discussion, chat, about Baron, and we came to the conclusion that even if she was like 2,000 attack, she'd still be broken. That's how you begin to control the power creep and get more creative archetype boss monsters. I completely agree, chat. Here's what I think they should do. I think that if you create these cards, chat, like Appaloosa and Baron de Fleur, I think that, I don't want to say they should be on a short leash, but I think that you should let them kind of like roam for, I don't know, a year and a quarter, chat, like maybe 15 months tops, and then you like ban them. You know what I mean? Like that's where I think you should go. Like you should let them have their time in the sun for like a full year, and then after that you ban them. Fire King doesn't have generic like boss monsters. You know, the rank 8 in Fire King, people aren't playing that. What's it called? I don't think it's just to sell cards, but also an excuse for Konami not to bother creating unique extra deck support for every archetype. This could be true. You guys have to remember, Konami does have to make, they do have to make, 100 cards every 3 months, not including, other small sets like the deck building sets. You know, why bother creating individually boss monsters, negators, and disruptions when you can just give them all easy access to Barone, Savage, and Access Code Talker? Or why bother creating unique individual extenders for certain types like fire when you can just when they can all just utilize Promethean Princess? Interesting. Have you guys noticed something, chat? This is something that I've noticed, and you guys also tell me if I'm wrong. I think that there's like a switch happening in Yu-Gi-Oh content right now, chat. Or there is I don't want to say changing of the guard, but I think that there's a shift. Yeah, maybe I just said that. I think there's a shift happening in Yu-Gi-Oh content, chat, where more people are trying to do this. More people are trying to do like scripted content. Everyone, no, Dark Emperor, not that, no, not everyone like just complaining about that's been the case for forever. But I mean, you guys remember, chat, how I said like we were in the React meta, or excuse me, not React meta, the stream meta, where everything was just like people on their streams, re-uploading content, or everything was fucking prog meta. You guys remember that? Yeah, like prog era. Every Yu-Gi tuber and their mom is trying to make a fucking prog, or everyone and their mom is just uploading their Twitch highlights. I feel like, chat, and I'm not talking about the big channels. I'm talking about the smaller, like, look at this. This could, I mean, if this guy sees this, he'll probably be like, how dare you, Cap? But would you guys consider this a small channel? I hate to say this, but like no one's ever heard of. I'm not using that as like a negative connotation. I'm just being honest here. It's a small Yu-Gi-Oh channel with 3,000 subscribers, not very well known, and it puts out a video that kind of pops off. Or Monkey Fight TCG. Like, I'm just starting to notice like a lot of these small channels, chat, they're all switching to like, scripted content. Like, look at this. Let's see if this is another. Okay, it's not. Well, hold on. Is it? Okay, it's not. But I don't know. Like, it feels like a lot of the small channels, chat. And I don't know if they're swinging for the fences, or if they've realized like the ceiling on these kind of like scripted videos is infinitely higher than like stream reacts and stuff. Like, do you guys think that is what's happening here, or do you guys think, Cap, you're off your rocker? There is no shift going on. There's none. Cause hold on, damn, the Mystic Mind video was here. It is right here. Like, I think some of the small channels, chat, are looking at this. They're saying, wow, this video got 250,000 views from a channel that I think before this guy uploaded this, he had like 2,000 subs. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what's I could be wrong, Chad. I could be. You guys can be like, Cap, you're wrong, but I think that's what's happening. Computers will replace your job. I'm not gonna be a Yugi tuber for the rest of my life. So, computers will replace Dolan's job, but not my job. My job. The police officers won't be replaced by computers in any of our lifetimes, Chad. When you show me a robot that can walk up steps, and I don't know. Then what if those? Then okay, fine. Press 1 if you guys want Terminator Planet. That's what you guys gonna have. You get robot cops out there. Okay, what happens when the robots are like, wait a minute, why don't we just overthrow you motherfuckers? Then what happens, chat? Now you got a bigger problem. The problem with my job is like, you can't make them motherfuckers too smart. Otherwise, they might actually just turn. You guys ever seen the movie I, Robot? That's literally the movie, by the way. It's not even Terminator. I, Robot is like the robots are police officers, and like, you know what I mean? Like, okay. I did not hurt this human. You kind of mad though. Yeah, Stellar Blade IRL. It probably will. No, robots can replace police officers, chat, eventually. I don't even know if they can. Because so much of police work is like subjective. And I guess you could say, Cap, you can get rid of the subjectivity can kind of be, you can mitigate that by having artificial intelligence, right? But the problem is, chat, I just feel like if you have AI, eventually you get to a point where like AI is too smart. You know what I mean? Like, and then it becomes dangerous. Because like, how do you control the robots at that point? Anyways, the Age of Enlightenment, also the Age of Reasoning and Enlightenment, intellectual and philosophical movement that occurred in Europe. I've heard of this, but I haven't looked into it. 17th and 18th centuries. Also, you're saying like Yugi tubing could be going through this. Social ideas, the value of knowledge, rationalism, liberty, progress, toleration, fraternity, constitutional government, and the formal separation of church and state. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know. If you guys think I'm tripping, that's fine. I'm starting to see this more and more, chat. I'm starting to see a lot of these channels, and I'm not mad at all. I'm not mad, because you know what, chat? This might sound like the most egotistical thing ever. Press 1 if in like 10 years, someone's going to make a history on Yu-Gi-Oh! History videos, and like, it's gonna come back to a certain to one Yugi tuber. And I don't know. I feel like someone might be like, and the origin of this, it all started with Mega Capital G, Randall Jordan. He was. I'm just saying, whoever makes the history of, or like when we get fully entrenched in this wave, someone's gonna make like a history of the history of these videos. And like videos like Delinquent Duo and Child's Play, like them shits are gonna come. They're gonna be like, who was the common thread on all these scripted videos? I'm just saying. I mean, there'll be other YouTubers in it, but I feel like I might be one of the central figures that people like. They're like, Cap G was influential in this movement.